Hey there, I'm Ava Meena. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to talk in this video about photosensitivity. Um, I'll talk about what it is, why I have it, why life with a photosensitivity can be tough, and then how to cope with it, which is essential. So, what is photosensitivity? Well, you could say it's kind of like being allergic to the sun. That's a simple way to explain it. But technically, the culprit is UV light, which has more sources than just sunlight. But the sun is the biggest source of UV light, and it's the one most people are going to encounter most frequently. And so I am photosensitive because I have lupus. Up to 85% of people with lupus have some amount of photosensitivity, and being exposed to UV light as a person with lupus can make you extremely sick. This is because when UV light rays touch your skin, it can damage the skin cells. So in someone without lupus, this isn't a big deal unless the damage is extensive. It causes inflammation and sunburn. But in someone with lupus, we don't fully understand what happens, but it's thought that these damaged cells, even just a little bit of them, causes an immune system response. Because lupus is an autoimmune disease, which means that the immune system attacks its own host. And with systemic lupus, it can attack nearly any part of the body. So once the skin cells become damaged, lupus starts attacking the skin. And then this usually looks like a rash. And these rashes can occur anywhere, and they can actually occur in the absence of UV exposure. If you're just having a flare-up of your lupus, lupus can just decide to attack your skin for no other, no good reason. It's a very complicated disease. But one of the common rashes is called a malar rash, and this is a butterfly-shaped rash that kind of lays across your face. It can resemble a sunburn, and I had this rash for months before I was diagnosed. And I thought maybe I was just overheated, because at the time I was living in Germany and we didn't have any air conditioning. But the malar rash tends to be pretty unique to lupus, and so that's part of what helped me get diagnosed, which I talked about in my first video, if you want to watch that one. And so, back to the rashes. There's also a form of lupus called discoid lupus, which is where the immune system only attacks the skin instead of the entire body with systemic lupus. People that have discoid lupus tend to be extremely photosensitive, including the musician Seal, although his lupus has been in remission for a long time now. But discoid lupus can cause more than just rashes. It can cause lesions and scarring that leads to hair loss. And so people with either kind of lupus can start to feel sick even if they just spend a few minutes in the sun. And if you have a severe photosensitivity, then you might have to start making changes to your lifestyle, working from home, maybe working the night shift. Some people have even moved to a less sunny location. So not only does lupus make you more photosensitive, but the medications used to control lupus add to the photosensitivity. And some people that suffer from photosensitivity only do so because that's a side effect of a medication maybe used for something totally unrelated. But to control my lupus, I take Plaquenil, which is an anti-malarial, Imurin, which is an immunosuppressant, and occasionally I'll take prednisone, which is a steroid. And all of these are known to increase or cause photosensitivity. So I didn't actually experience my photosensitivity until after I started taking Plaquenil. But I was so sick before I started treatment that it may just be I didn't go out in the sun often enough to have a chance to realize that was what was making me sick. But being exposed to UV light is one of the biggest triggers that can bring on a lupus flare. And it's a risk factor for developing lupus in the first place. A lot of people have developed lupus after they get a particularly bad sunburn. So that's just another reason to avoid getting a sunburn if you can. And another source of UV light is fluorescent lighting, especially fluorescent lighting that doesn't have a cover over the bulbs. This has been a problem for me in big chain stores. For example, Walmart has uncovered fluorescent bulbs in their stores, at least locally. And so before I realized that this lighting was exposing me to UV rays, I would spend, maybe up to an hour in the store doing a weekly grocery shop, and by the time I was ready to check out, I'd be exhausted, and I thought it was just the strain of going out, walking around, grocery shopping, and I'm sure, that was part of it, but another big part that I wasn't aware of is that it was my reaction to the UV light in the store causing my lupus to flare up, causing me to be more fatigued. It's a really low level of exposure in a situation like that, but it can affect someone who's really sensitive to it, like myself. So I've gotten in the habit of always checking a light situation as soon as I enter a store or an office. And, I prefer to shop at places now that don't have uncovered fluorescent lighting. But if there is a covering, I won't have a reaction too quickly. This was a problem when I delivered my son, actually, because I was in the hospital for 3 days and they had fluorescent lighting. But I asked the nurses to keep the overhead lights off, and they really accommodated me. And then they even moved me to a room that had more ambient natural light so that we didn't have to keep the overhead lights on. So this is a good example of speaking up and advocating for yourself. You might be surprised how many solutions are available to you. A lot of people work in an office where they're exposed to fluorescent lights all day long, and this can be a huge problem for someone who's photosensitive or has lupus, and it's maybe one of the major workplace accommodations that you might need to ask for and pursue. But one of the most difficult things is that it's hard for other people to empathize with someone who has a photosensitivity, because most people, they equate going out into the sunshine as being a really healthy, positive experience that people really need to do. I've lost track of how many times someone has suggested to me that going out into the sun would make me feel better, when in fact it's the complete opposite. I mean, nobody's ever going to expect that the sun is like your enemy, but that's how it feels, and it's hard to cope with. In my early 20s, I craved sunshine. I always looked forward to getting to lay in the sun and get tan during the summer. And I didn't really worry very much about using sun protection unless I was maybe at the beach for an entire day. So, I can still get really jealous and frustrated when I see my friends, going out, doing outdoor activities, without a second thought. Because for me, the minute I feel the sun touch my skin, I start to get stressed. And it used to be this warm, happy, relaxing feeling to, feel the warmth of the sun on your face. But now it's kind of like setting off internal alarms. Get out of the sun or you're going to be really sick. So very small amounts of sunlight can be a problem for me. And it happens so often. You go outside to get the mail, you drive to the grocery store, maybe you're seated next to a window at a restaurant. How obnoxious is that to say, I'm sorry, I don't want to sit, I can't sit next to the window, and you don't want to give someone your whole life story. But this photosensitivity is definitely one of the hardest things to accept about life with lupus. But at a certain point, we kind of have to move past the frustration and adapt. So how do you cope with a photosensitivity? There are a lot of strategies that I've developed over the past year and a half to learn how to protect myself. One of the most obvious strategies is covering up. I have a lot more long sleeve clothing now than I used to, and I have a very broad sun hat. I have long pants. I almost never go outside with much of my skin exposed. There are a lot of ways to use clothing as sun protection, although you should be aware that like a typical t-shirt is only going to provide you with maybe like 5 SPF. You can find darker clothes. You can find clothes with material that's more tightly woven. That's going to protect you better. There's actually a laundry detergent that you can use that like fortifies your clothing with sunscreen. And there are brands of clothing specifically made to protect you from the sun. Coolibar is a really popular brand. That's Coolivar, Coolibar. But there's a ton of nice clothes out there that you can choose from. You just have to search for sun protective clothing. And so if you're unable or unwilling to cover up, then obviously you can apply sunscreen. I find sunscreen to be a pain. I don't like applying it. Also, my baby is 4 months old, and he's always got, his face up against my skin, and so I don't want him ingesting it. And for someone with a photosensitivity, you just go out to lunch, you need to apply sunscreen, then you come home, and you're covered in maybe greasy sunscreen, and you've got to take a shower before you can, lay down and rest on the couch. And sometimes, I've been standing in a parking lot, maybe at the gas station or something, applying sunscreen in the spring, and who does that? I look ridiculous, and it doesn't make sense to other people. So that's a tough one. But if you're going to use sunscreen, you really need to educate yourself about how to use it properly. You might be surprised about how many people don't understand how to use sunscreen. For example, applying it every 2 hours, needing to rub it in. Even if you've used the spray kind, you have to rub it in. There was this really interesting article on Gizmodo last month where they used a UV camera to watch people applying their sunscreen and see how many spots were missed, and it was really crazy how many people were really not giving themselves much sun protection, even though they were trying. They just weren't applying sunscreen thoroughly and adequately. And you'll want at least a 50 SPF. After you get past 50, it doesn't make a huge difference. And you'll want to choose a sunscreen that protects against UVA and UVB rays. I use Neutrogena with Helioplex sunscreen. That's frequently recommended for people with lupus because it has this broad spectrum sun protection. So in addition to educating yourself about how to use sunscreen, you also need to know when to use it. For example, during the summer where I live in North Carolina, the UV rays are stronger from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. about. So if I can avoid going out during that time when they're strongest, I definitely do. I'll go somewhere early in the morning or in the evening instead of in the middle of the day. So you'll want to know, how that works where you live. And another thing that people might not realize is that you can be exposed to UV rays even on a cloudy day, or when it's snowing. A lot of people get sunburned when they're skiing because you're, usually at a higher altitude, and the rays can reflect off the snow. So UV rays, some of them can go like through clouds or something. So that's why you might need to wear sunscreen during times that doesn't really seem like you need to. And there are a lot of less obvious ways you can protect yourself. My state offers a special medical exemption for tinting your car windows. So I'm allowed to tint my car windows more darkly and in more places like the windshield than what is normally allowed legally. And I just have this letter from the DMV that I carry with me in case I'm stopped. And tinting your car is an excellent way to reduce sun exposure, especially if you drive a lot. And then there are simpler things like carrying an umbrella, seeking shade, or maybe using makeup with SPF. And for going into stores or offices with UV lighting, like I mentioned earlier, I tend to just cover up. I've usually driven there anyway, so I already had to cover up. If I'm there for a long time and I know there's going to be uncovered fluorescent lighting, I might also put sunscreen on my face. It's a good idea to just always have sunscreen with you just in case. For someone in an office environment that's facing, fluorescent lights every day, you could request alternative lighting like LED lights or halogen lights. You can ask for a cover. There's lots of effective covers out there for fluorescent lights. Like one company is called Make Great Lights. They offer covers, and they've worked with people with lupus before. And you might even need to change things in your home. I had to change out all the fluorescent light bulbs in our house with LED lights. And you can get tinting for your windows in your house if you want to be able to work next to a window without worry. And, so having a photosensitivity it's never going to be easy, but there are a lot of ways to still live a full life, even if you have one. You might need some extra understanding from your friends. Maybe you can't join them on the patio for lunch. You have to sit inside. It's not an easy conversation, but protecting yourself from the sun will definitely be worth it. And over time, it'll become second nature. And when protecting yourself means that you're going to feel better, that your disease activity will be lower, that's a great thing. And then on the plus side, you can worry less about hormones and skin cancer. So thanks very much for watching this video about photosensitivity. It's been a hard topic for me since it's so unusual for someone to have to avoid the sun in all situations. So I hope this video can help some people who are trying to learn how to cope with their photosensitivity, or maybe understand what someone with a photosensitivity might be going through. Let's see, I have a couple questions. I bet fluorescent lighting in older schools can also be harmful. with people to lupus. Yes, I mean, all of the fluorescent lighting bulbs are bad for you. I don't know if like the older ones are going to be any worse than the newer ones. Really, it'd just be great to get rid of them altogether because even an otherwise healthy person exposed to fluorescent lighting all the time can have some issues. It's just not good for your body. And will sunscreen help if you're outside? Yes, definitely. Like I mentioned, you just need to make sure you have broad spectrum sunscreen and that you apply it regularly and properly. So, hi everybody. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day. Bye.